conceive, believe, achieve. Shut the f*** up.
You're listening to Believe You Me with Michael the Count Bisping.
You know my name yet?
And Anthony Lionheart Smith.
How you doing, Paul?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad.
You're better than me, Jesus Christ. I was just in Las Vegas, still catching up on sleep. I know we're a little bit late starting the recording this morning. I was like, I'll be there in 5 minutes. I was still in bed. I got up, I went to the doctor's this morning to get a checkup on the neck. Everything's normal. Still being in agony after 6 weeks is totally fine. Don't worry, we're not talking about the neck the whole show.
No.
We're not. But I was worn down, beat down from Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Financially, more than anything. I'll tell you that. The missus came. My wife came with me. It cost a fortune.
Well, I saw you went out to some nightclub dinner after the show. Yeah, I saw that. Let's see here.
Nobody wants that. He's pissed off. Let's go, Paul.
I wish I had my glow sticks and stuff.
Let's go. Did you ever do a bit of raving back in the day?
Not really, but I've messed around with some glow sticks.
Yeah, you know how it is. Go to the fights. We hadn't eaten a thing all day. First of all, we stayed at a beautiful hotel, the UFC, where they put us. And they had a nice spa, right? $180 each to get into the spa, just for access alone, right? So then we go to the spa, and then there's a 20% gratuity immediately added. Oh. Now, I'm not a cheap guy, but I'm like, we're not having any services. We're literally just going into the spa. Yeah. So anyway, whatever. That was my first complaint of the day. Then she goes in. They allowed her, they escorted her in, whilst a man escorted me to the gentleman's side. Right. I was standing there for 15 minutes. And in the end, I'm like, what's going on? And I think it's because I made a joke about the tip. I was like, well, why are we tipping? You know, I think they made me wait on purpose. So that was complaint number 2. And then we got in there and it was packed out. Packed. You couldn't get in anything. And they had all these like weird sauna rooms. There was the herbal sauna area, which wasn't even hot. And there was like these, looked like some dried up marijuana on top of a thing. Like, what's this meant to do? Then there was a salt room. You're
meant to smoke it.
It was cold, you know. Then the infrared sauna room didn't get hot. Then there was a meditation sauna room. Okay. I went in there and there's a show at 3:00 and a woman comes in. You all sit there. There's like 30 people, right? Because it's a big old sauna. This woman comes in and she's giving a show while wafting a towel round. You know, it was like being in a Peloton sauna class. She's like, you're doing great, guys. In through the nose, out through the mouth, and stick your tongue out when you breathe out. And I'm like, I had my eyes shut because I was like, I'm over it. And I'm looking around and these dickheads, they're all there with them. And I'm like, get me out of here. Get me out of
the night before. At what point did Yuri Prohaska come in and do a...
Yes, guys, breathe. You're doing great now. So anyway, we ducked out of there pretty quick, got ready, went to the fight. So some of the prelims in my phone while Rebecca was taking forever to get ready, got to the arena just in time for Anthony Smith versus Dominick Reyes, because I wanted to be in the building for that one.
It was a rough one to watch, man, because it was obvious from anybody that knows him, anybody that watched, that's not normally how Anthony Smith would enter an octagon, emotionally, just seemingly not where you want to be in a mental state to be getting ready for a fight, especially against a guy like Dominick Reyes, who's really trying to use Anthony Smith to make a name off of himself again, to climb back up into those rankings. And you could tell he's still hurting, man. He's beyond still grieving. And I was here with a couple friends watching the pay-per-view on the TV. And
let me just jump in there, Paul, because obviously I was in the crowd. I wasn't watching on TV. And I saw that Dominick Reyes afterwards said that he was asking Reyes. No, Dominick said Anthony was asking to be punched in the face so he could feel something. Did that come through on the microphone?
I didn't hear necessarily exactly what was said, but you could see that he was yelling stuff and putting his hands down and just wanting to get punched in the face. I didn't know it was so that he could, quote, that he could feel something, but it was obvious that he just, pardon my language, he didn't give a shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. He was in there, and he'd even said it in the build-up that he just wanted to go out there and punch somebody in the face, and he was trying to spin it in a good light. The last time he did that was when he fought Gustafsson, in Gustafsson in his backyard. But there's a big difference between where he was then and what he's dealing with, having lost, somebody that was pretty much one of his best friends and coach, and somebody that's been around his career as long as he has. It was tough. And I was screaming at the TV, put your effing hands up. Like, what are you doing? Because he had moments and he was being aggressive. That was the one thing that I was looking at in a positive. Like, I'm like, he's going for it. At least maybe this will bring that out of him. He won't sit and wait around. He's going to go after it. But ultimately, he was just taking too many shots. And you could tell he didn't necessarily want to be in there.
Well, we say all the time, and you know what I'm talking about, you don't want to be overly emotional when you're going into a fight. You got to be in control of your emotions or emotionless. When I saw Anthony in, we were there right by the prep point. He's walking in and, visibly very, very upset. Of course, at that moment there, he would have gone through that moment with his old mentor and coach. And, that probably brought all of that emotion to the forefront. I understand that. That's why I don't think he should have taken that fight at all, and I understand his reasoning for that, maybe to give him something to train for, a way to honor the memory of Stuart or whatever the case may be. But people they won't remember that when they look back, and it's a real, I feel for Anthony. I saw him briefly after the fight. He was there with his daughter, with his 4 daughters and his wife. We exchanged, you're trying to find the right words,
it's so tough, man. Like, what do you say? There's nothing to say.
There's nothing you can say that's going to make you feel better. I went over, I gave him a quick hug. I'm like, God damn. It's a tough sport, Anthony. And he's like, yeah, it's a tough sport. We'll talk soon. And he walked off. I didn't want to get into it all in front of his daughters and whatnot. But he was clearly upset, and rightly so. I get it. I understand it. We're all dejected when we lose a fight, but certainly in that style. And then given what he's been through recently and given the run of form that he's had lately. Anthony and Brian, you are friends with Anthony, of course. Do you guys have any takes, any opinions, any words you want to give on a 4-shot or a 3-shot?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. We were doing a Twitter Spaces, Brian and I. Shout out to all the believers who were hanging out for that. But I mean, I said,
no, and I would have jumped on for a minute.
We're in the audience,
from the
Michael
fight?
Bisping.
That's not going to sound good.
I would jump on.
Come on now.
Next time.
We'll text you next time.
The Believe You Me brand. I mean, you guys are a part of it, but you ain't shit. Just so you know, if we are witnessing a hostile takeover right now, I ain't going out without a fight. But you and Felder are all getting together. Mm-hmm. I'm out. Anthony and Felder are in. It's you two.
That's what happens when you show up so late that Paul's here before you. We have time to plot, Michael.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
What I was gonna say is during that when the coach came in, and I think it was Cutman Tate who came in with the scissors to like cut his hand wraps off. Yeah. That was the first time I was actively rooting, like, hey, please, Anthony, like, just drop the gloves, man. Like, and he had them cut off, and then he wasn't sure going back and forth with Joe. And my biggest takeaway from that was just like, dude, you're an incredible analyst. You have so many things set up. Why keep doing this to yourself? Why pull yourself out of, TV work and doing everything when this is clearly the path forward? So when those gloves did come off, there was like a feeling of relief, inside of me watching that.
Well, the thing is, and Paul knows this, the TV works all well and good, but the paychecks pale in comparison to what you make fighting. And Anthony's on really good money. I don't want to say publicly what he's on, but I do know what he gets paid. I think I know. And he gets paid very handsomely. So obviously there's that. I don't think he will retire. I think when he watches that back, he's going to be, and I'll choose my words carefully, but I know the emotions of a fighter. I think he's going to be embarrassed when he watches that, and that's going to fuel him to want to come back and fight again. And I would like to see him fight again because I don't believe that the world deserves to remember him like that. That wasn't Anthony at his best. And again, I'll say this, and maybe I'll owe him an apology. I thought that when he took his shirt off at the prep point, I thought he doesn't look to be in shape, which I kind of get because he's had so many distractions. You know, you got the grieving process, then you got the funeral, then there's so many stages of grief that you go through when somebody passes away, somebody that close. The last thing you're thinking about is training twice a day, eating the right food, going for a massage, focusing on your recovery, meditation, and all that type of stuff. No, you're like, okay, I'll show up, I'll do my job, I'll make weight, which he almost didn't, and then go and kick some ass. But for him, it was a mistake. Maybe it was therapeutic to him in some ways, and hopefully we can get him on again soon and he can go through it all. But I'd like to see him fight again. What about you, Paul?
Yeah, when he took the gloves off too, I was like, okay, he's going to be done. This is going to be it. But the way that he felt and the way that he was talking in that post-fight interview, I agree. I don't think that's going to be it. I know Dana probably wants a lot of those guys in the card that were nearing the end of their career to retire, but I think if it's up to him, he would have one more. And if he does do one more, I think it should be one more, and I think he should go all in on it and win, lose, or draw. Just have a good camp, have a good process, and have a good mindset going into it. You don't want – it's such an emotional moment. You just want to be done with it. You're sick of the sport when you lose a coach like that, when you're going through all that, and you could feel all of that. He felt like that's what he should do, but I think he needs to think about it. And I wouldn't mind seeing Anthony fight again on a better camp where he's not going through all that. Take some time, deal with everything that you've got to deal with, get back on TV, do a couple jobs and see how you feel. And if you're still feeling that itch to get back in there and want to kick somebody's ass one more time and then properly give a send off to everybody that's been following you as long as they have, I wouldn't mind that. In the moment, I was like, all right, I was the same as you guys. I was like, yeah, man, just be done. You don't need this. But in hindsight now, looking at everything he went through for that camp, I'd like to see one more time where he goes out there with that same energy he brought, where it looked like he was just going to go for it and throw down, but not with all the heavy heart and all the stuff that he had to go through.
Brian?
Yeah, I mean, to Paul's point, Danny said so much at the end of the fights that he was like, these handful of dudes need to just give it up. But like you guys are saying, I also don't want to see Anthony, he's our friend. I don't want to see him go out like that either. So I'd love to see him fight one more time, but he needs to be into it, and it's going to be tough. He's just lost his head coach and best friend. Like, I'm not sure how you replace that even just one time.
Yeah, no, I understand that point, of course, but you've got to be, you got to be respectful of the sport as well. I'm sitting there dealing with serious neck issues. I've got 2 knee replacements. I've already had multiple neck surgeries before. I've got one eye, for crying out loud. I can't breathe through my nose, which was rebuilt because of ribs. They took some of my ribs and rebuilt my nose. And, I always make jokes about CTE. Fortunately, I'm fine in that regard. But there's the scars, the breakages, the replacements, the eyes that I've lost. This isn't a sport that you play. You know what I mean? And that's why people say he needs to retire. That's why this Dana says Chris Weidman and Clay Guida need to retire, because the more times you step in there, and certainly as you get older and you start getting a bit more frail and you don't recover quite as well, that shit will stay with you. So if he is going to do it, I would, if he fights, I'm going to give him a call. Hopefully he picks up and just say, dude, if you do this, do it for the right reasons. And train as if you're training for a world title fight, as if you're going up against John Jones, for the greatest of all time, for the BMF or whatever it is. You've got to leave no stone unturned. Otherwise, if you're not willing to do that, then don't even think about it in the first place.
100%.
All I'm hearing is that Michael Bisping might come back for another fight.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Let me know, Mike. I'll jump on that card.
Yeah. Go on, Harrington. Go on.
Well, I was going to say, just earlier this year, we saw that for the Vitor Petrino fight, right? This is a young guy who's up and coming, who calls Anthony out, who wants to make a name off him. And Anthony Smith said, I'm not going out like that. I'm not going to, take 3 losses back and do this, that, the other.
Harrington, give us a 2-shot. Sorry, Mike. We've been through that on multiple shows, and we just don't want to repeat what we've said. All right, this episode is sponsored by Mando, and it is official. The holidays are just around the corner. That means lights, gifts, and get-togethers. And right now, it means, Harrington, you will be receiving a gift because I'm going to give you some Mando products. In fact, it's more of a gift for Alex because guess what? It comes in 3 formats, okay? You got the invisible spray, you got the solid stick, but you've also got the invisible cream. And with the cream, you will be able to get it in your hand, Harrington, and slide it down your butt crack, and you will not be smelling any more. Now, first of all, why is Mando any good? Well, Mando's whole body deodorant. Mando is made seriously safe to use anywhere on your body. Your pits, your packages, your grundles and your balls, your belly buttons, butt cracks, as I said, stinky crevices, stomach folds and feet. And it was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal body odor was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Mando's whole body deodorant is powerful enough for the toughest body odor, but gentle enough to use everywhere, allowing you to put Mando on the family jewels without any worries, because Mando is aluminium free, baking soda free, cruelty free, dye free, and vegan. And it is clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. 12 hours after a shower, the average men's grundle score was a 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average stink smell score is a level 0 out of 10. So Harrington, after I give you this package, which by the way, if you want to go to shopmando.com and you want to get 40% off the starter pack, and by the way, in Mando starter pack, which is perfect for new customers, you can secure some last minute stocking stuffers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, a cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash or deodorant wipes. By the way, free shipping as well. So please go to shopmando.com to get $5 off the starter pack. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you use the code BISPING at shopmando.com. Shopmando.com. Please support the show and tell them that we sent you. Don't let the meat sweats get you this holiday. Your family and your friends and your significant other will thank you. Where do you want to start with 310, Paul?
Oh, man. Well,
obviously, that was a start. Oh, we'll touch on the similar things. It was I never thought I'd see Chris Weidman losing to Eric Anders in the fashion that he did either.
Yeah, getting ground and pounded like that. Now there's somebody that's had some chances since having really bad surgeries. And I think this one was like, okay, you had him in certain moments, you had him hurt for a little bit. And, you know, Eric Anders, God bless him, but he's not, you know, the top of that division by any means. And he was putting a beating on him towards the end. And I know he was arguing that stoppage for a little bit, but I was in a complete agreement with the ref stepping in there. You were just taking way too many shots. And I think that's it. I think after that one, you know, I'm almost glad that didn't happen in Madison Square Garden in New York, so close to where Chris is from, with everybody that might have been there. So maybe that was a blessing in disguise that it got to happen in a more neutral ground in Vegas. But yeah, I was a big Chris Weidman fan. I loved him when he was a champion, but I do think I think that ship has sailed. I think it's time for him to dude, you've done so much in the freaking sport. And I know money is always an issue when you're an athlete and, you know, you don't necessarily have other things, but now is definitely the time to start thinking about what am I going to do full time post being a UFC fighter? Because I Father Time is there and it's knocking hard on his door.
Let me ask you, Paul, and by the way, you're right in what you said, because Eric Anders himself isn't calling for title fights and stuff like that. I thought that was very, he knew his place in the sport when he was on the microphone.
I love that. Yep.
Yeah, I know. It was very self-aware. He was like, look, listen, I ain't calling for title fights or anything like that. I know I've got a few more fights left in this sport, and I just want some fights that are going to be fun, you know, and maybe that you people will enjoy. And I thought that was very grounded and very self-aware, as I said. When you stepped away from the sport, Paul, and I know you had some ups and downs and changes of heart kind of recently. You were considering it again. It is one of the hardest things to do, certainly when you're so embedded with it for so long. But what was kind of your decision-making, Paul, and what did you think you would do after it? I mean, did you know you were going to be a commentator when you initially first retired?
Yeah, so I mean, I was already doing that so much anyway that I was having to take time off of commentating to get fully invested into training camps. And I think once I lost, honestly, to Dan Hooker, and I thought I won that fight, and I thought that was really my chance. That was my first main event. It was a big event down in New Zealand. I figured if I beat him, I was setting myself up for big shots, and I was really going to start making a march towards the title. If I beat Dan in New Zealand, I was going to be getting the chances at Gaethje or Poirier or these guys in the top of the division. And when I lost that one, I kind of retired there and then turned around and said, no, I want to fight again. And then after the RDA fight, which I took on short notice, it was like, I kind of what we just said with Anthony, I wasn't finding the same motivation anymore, the same desire to, when's the next one? Who's next? What's next? I need a fight. And when I wasn't doing that anymore, when that wasn't my initial gut instinct to just be begging my manager to get on the phone to Sean Shelby, to Hunter, and to like get a fight going, that's when I was like, well, that's a scary place to be if I'm not just clawing to be in there. You know what I mean? So I think that's when I started really saying, okay, well, I just took time off at first. And then when I was kind of happy doing commentary, just doing my own training, whether it was a little bit of MMA or doing triathlons, I was having fun doing that. That's when I was like, okay, if you're enjoying this and you're not losing your mind because you don't have a fight lined up, that's when I knew, okay. But again, I'm in a special place where I had something else going on. I do understand for guys that don't, that like, well, what am I going to do?
It's so hard. It is for a lot of guys. 99.9% of the roster, they
don't know. They don't know what they're going to do.
In the boxing world. Again, same thing in boxing. 0.001% of guys that go on afterwards and have a career in broadcasting. That is very rarefied air. And I'm not saying that to big ourselves up. I'm saying it to understand the peril of what a lot of these guys face.
We're lucky. We're lucky.
Your Alex Pereiras, your Chuck Liddells, your big names of the sport, they're not having these kind of feelings. And I had a really good career, and I've never complained about the money I was paid because I did very well. But I wasn't commentating. I was doing the desk stuff. You know what I mean? And it was only, and it always annoyed me. I'm like, Felder's doing it. Dominick Reyes is doing it. DC's doing it.
Yeah.
What the?
Where's my chance?
I'm like, what the hell? Give me a shot. Put me in, coach. And when I retired, I did. So anyway, Anthony, whatever happens, it'll all work out. And that's the thing I was going to say. All these fighters, you don't see a life after fighting. And anyone that's done something for so long, you can't imagine any kind of other scenario where, because I always like to try and liken it to not just fighting, for anyone watching this that might be in a similar position in life. You know what I mean? There's always the next chapter in life. You know what I mean? And because I didn't see a life for myself outside of fighting, outside of putting those gloves on. And now I'm busier than I've ever been. And granted, I'm still involved with the sport. But other guys, they find other things like Patrick Cummins. I think he's doing all kinds of stuff. I follow him on Instagram. All these fighters I used to train with, they're doing really good, fun, interesting stuff all over the world. And there's always an afterlife if you're still willing to put that same kind of work in. So all the best to all you guys. Who did he say? Dana, Clay Guida, Anthony.
Yeah, Clay and Chris Weidman.
And Chris Weidman. Yeah. All right, main event. Give me your thoughts on that one.
Pantoja's a beast, man. He's an absolute monster. You know what I loved about it too was you got this newcomer who's known for just absolute devastating knockouts, crazy power, beautiful knees, and Pantoja went right after this dude, right from the jump, and was not afraid to mix it up and trade with him whatsoever on the feet. That was his octagon. That was his place. And he just truly fought like a champion. I mean, he just went out there and did exactly what he needed to do. And especially, as a UFC guy, I love having new guys come in, but it felt like, all right, man, you showed the world why this is the best place to be fighting. This is where the best fighters are. And that kid is good. And I'm excited to see him mix it up in the division, but not with our guy, baby.
Paul. I'm proud of you. Spoken like a true company man.
Hell yeah.
That's it. I'm like, Paul gets it. All we're here to do is big up the UFC and not have an original thought. If
that's it. Yeah.
You guys are so dumb. Anyway, but you are right. What was it? A round and a half of action. Beautiful stuff from both men, to be fair. The flyweights, the speed of these guys, the aggression of Pantoja, the ability that he had, the well-roundedness, that was the big difference. Asakura, clearly a devastating striker, but he's kind of a one-trick pony where Pantoja can do it all. The threat of the strikes opens up the wrestling and so on and so forth. Just great work. I loved the call-out of Mighty Mouse. I know Mighty Mouse came back out and said, no, you ain't getting my ass out of retirement. However, I still like it. I still think there might be a world one day where Mighty Mouse could be lured out of retirement and we could see him back. What do you reckon?
How old is Demetrius now?
I think he's like,
is he 40?
Harrington, jump on if you can. Don't be all offended now. Come on, I was only playing with you. Is he 40? I don't think
No, sorry, I wasn't offended. I was just Googling his age. He is 38. 38, turning 38 in August.
Yeah, he's still got time.
How old are you, Harrington?
I'm 36.
Oh, dude, you still got time.
Yeah.
Yeah, put in a good word.
I feel like
Harrington's going to be a flyweight champion.
What's that?
Sorry. I said Harrington's going to be flyweight champion one day.
Oh, yeah, you never know. You never know. Pantoja versus Harrington. Let's go. What were your thoughts on the main event, Harrington?
I mean, look, it's a little frustrating for me how much we were hyped on this Kai Asakura guy, and then we barely got to see him. Pantoja just did not let him establish himself at range. Like, it felt like if they were to stand in kickbox, he would have been in for a world of trouble, because Asakura did seem really fast and really powerful when he was given those short opportunities. But Pantoja just didn't give him that chance at all. It was like, what's the clearest path to victory? Get him down and get him unconscious. It worked.
Yeah. So I was in the
best way to do that is to strike with him first, right? And that's what he did well, was his ability to engage enough on the feet, not be afraid, because a lot of times if you're just shooting at distance and you're scared of the striking, it's impossible to get a takedown against a guy with good takedown defense. But if you can engage with them and put some fear into them of your own strikes, it opens up all the wrestling in the world, and Pantoja did that great.
And that's why you can't be a one-trick pony. That's just as simple as that. You've got to be, you can be a specialist up here, but you've still got to have everything else at a decent foundation level to where you can still use it against world-class people to open up what you're really good at. I was sitting in the fighter section, so I had Brandon Royval 2 seats down from me. Oh, he wanted Asakura to win bad for obvious reasons, because he'd get a shot next. But right in front of me, we'll go through the other fights in just a sec. Harrington, jump on. This is why I wanted you on. In front of me, there was a couple of empty seats. And I believe that's where the bantamweight champ, Merab Dvalishvili, was supposed to be sitting. And the UFC staff came and they moved everything around. And I think that a couple of people got moved because they couldn't be near to each other. Harrington, just give me the lowdown. What was going on last week? I know Merab was scrapping with someone in the audience. I know Nate Diaz was in the building for the press conference and he was chucking water bottles at Islam. I, on the flip side, was rushing around, commentating, doing power slap, paying for ridiculously expensive meals and worrying about my credit card balance. Yeah. So what was going on with all this drama?
So there was a couple of different things. Nate Diaz was in town. He was working with, I believe, either one of the fighters on the card or just somebody. He had some reason to be in Vegas, but he pulled up to the UFC 211.
He was in Kron's corner.
That's what it was. Okay. So he showed up at the UFC 211 press conference where, Arman and Islam were 311. I keep doing that. I keep saying 210. I don't want to believe that I'm old enough to have lived through UFC 300.
Wait until you've got 3 kids and you're giving them all, calling them the wrong name. It's a classic.
So Nate shows up to that. He gets into a shouting match with Islam, tells Islam to pull up, man. That whole thing. When Islam doesn't immediately pull up, Nate just starts chucking water bottles because apparently that's his move. So that's what went down there. But the Merab thing was a completely separate incident. That happened the night of the fight. He was in Aljo's corner. He was walking back with him after the fight. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Do we have a video whilst Harrington's playing? There we go. Carry on, Harrington.
So you can see Merab is clearly, or not in this video, but a little bit earlier, you can see Merab filming Aljamain. And this guy comes up and as he's walking by, grabs Merab by the arm and then starts talking to him. They go back and forth for a couple of minutes. There's some shoving. And then, Merab tries to get at him. Security gets in the middle. And then somebody else on the team, I guess the guy carrying the bucket with Merab and Aljo, he ends up going back and actually throwing strikes with the guy. Initial reports were that it was a fan in the audience. People did some digging online. They found that guy was hanging out with Islam and Khabib and his whole team after. There is rumors that he's actually on their fight team and was just talking crap there. Yeah, there's the guy right there.
Ah, okay. Okay. A little bit of drama going on.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Dana said it best at the post-fight presser. These guys are fighters. This is what happens. And you know, because you're on the inside, they do everything they can to try and avoid these kind of things happening where people run into one another. But fighters are unpredictable by nature. We're fiery. We're, sometimes a little bit stupid because the emotions get too much and then you act out and you do something that you might later regret. I didn't realize that Nate Diaz had such a beef with Islam Makhachev, though.
Yeah, I didn't. Man, I think Nate's got a beef with anybody that's not on his side. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're not Team Diaz, he's got beef.
So it's the Khabib connection because he's always had a thing back and forth with Khabib. So, now Islam is in Khabib's spot, so he's got to have beef with him.
He's going to have beef with me now. He's going to have beef as TH. What is he doing? I mean, the man's all, I've said this before, and he obviously, I'm a fan of Nate Diaz. I love the character. I do. I love talking about what he does. I love seeing him fight. I love the attitude. I love the, relentless attitude that he has all the time. But outside of that, you can't live your life. Everywhere he goes, he's getting into fights, into scraps, throwing water bottles, punching security guards, choking out Logan Pauls. Do you know what I mean? It's like, at some point, you just gotta learn to just go, I'm not gonna get into it.
It's amazing for guys that smoke so much weed that they seem always so pissed off, right? I mean, if I'm high, I'm not chucking water bottles at people when I'm like that. I'm usually looking for something to eat and sitting on my couch relaxing. But these guys, they get the reefer in them, and then it's time to start fighting with everybody. But you know what? That being said, at least he is who he says he is, right? I mean, I agree with you. It's like, at what point do you go, all right, you don't need to be getting into these altercations just everywhere you go. But 209, baby.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, and that's why people do still adore him so much and follow him, and they're so obsessed with him because authenticity. He's authentic. He's authentic, and people buy into that. You know what I mean? And people relate to that, of course. And as you say, I'm glad you brought that up about the weed. I'm the same way. I'm not a habitual weed smoker, but of course I have. I remember when I was a kid, my old mate, Stuart Hudson, he used to get me stoned. And then he'd be like, right, let's go for a walk. I'm like, go for a walk? I'm sitting on this park bench. I ain't moving. I'm lying here paranoid as hell for the next 2 hours until this wears off so I can go home and then get in bed. You know what I mean? Last thing I want to do is bump into my old man and he kicks the crap out of me for being high.
Yeah. The last thing I'm looking to do is chuck water bottles at people. That's for certain.
Professional fighters.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking at Makhachev, trying to get a fight with him while I'm high. That's the last thing I want to be doing.
When he's with a bunch of crazy Russians.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
No thanks.
No. All right, today's episode is sponsored by Unbound Merino, which specializes in all kinds of clothing made from merino wool, which is moisture wicking, temperature regulating, and extra comfortable for all sorts of travelers. Let me tell you, Unbound Merino, you go to the website, they've got everything that you need. If you want to keep it stylish but basic, and you want high quality fashion that looks good and feels great, and has all the benefits that I said, moisture wicking, temperature regulating, extra comfortable for all sorts of travel, well, listen, with Unbound Merino, you're going to be packing lighter, saving on baggage fees, and taking the decision fatigue out of packing with their versatile and timeless pieces. And by the way, before I go any further, all new customers will get 15% off with the code BELIEVE when you go to the website, unboundmerino.com. As I say, Unbound Merino offer timeless, versatile clothing that will have you looking good and feeling great in any situation, whatever it is that you need. By the way, the socks, they are a game changer, but they've got t-shirts, they've got chinos, they've got sweaters, they've got all the basics that a man or a woman is going to need when they are on the road. And one of the big benefits of merino wool is how much easier it is for packing, because look, listen, merino wool has a naturally odor resistant quality to it, so you can wear them multiple times. Okay, so you don't have to pack as much stuff. So as I say, head over to unboundmerino.com, where new customers, when they use the code BELIEVE, they will get 15% off. They got t-shirts, they got sweaters, they got travel pants, they got all kinds of stuff. They got the socks, they got the undies, they got everything that you're gonna need. It's stylish, it looks good, and it's great value for money. Unboundmerino.com. New customers, use the code BELIEVE to get 15% off. Anyway, co-main event, Ian Garry, Shavkat Rakhmonov. Ian's come out since, he's spoken about it, and he's still very proud of his performance because he almost got the finish in round 5. And he did. He almost got the finish in round 5, and he went the distance with somebody that's finished everybody. So there's a lot to be proud about there. You know, and he did. He was the closest one to getting the finish between the two of them, but he did still ultimately lose. And I'm not saying to take a dump on Ian Garry, because I've done the same thing. You come out with reasons, and we'll get into the X, Y's, and Z's, X's and O's, as you guys say, in just a second of the fight. But after a loss, I always looked for a silver lining. You know what I mean? I would always say, well, I did this or that guy. I remember when I got knocked out against Vitor Belfort, and in the first round, I was like, I might have outlanded him once or twice. I'm like, oh, well, the guy was a multiple weight champion, and I outboxed him in the first round. Right before I got my head kicked off my shoulders. So you always, as a fighter, you kind of do that. You look for a way to soften the blow. The reality is he did do very, very well. It wasn't the most entertaining fight because he was looking to counter. He didn't want to overcommit to anything and then therefore get taken down. I thought he did a tremendous job in stopping the takedown over 5 rounds. He got taken down here and there, but he bounced back up pretty quickly. What were your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, I agree. I think even coming off of a loss, I think that he proved that he is amongst the very, very elite in that division. And I do think that he's not going anywhere. I think that we're only going to see better stuff from him after this loss, right? He went out there against the boogeyman of that division right now, the guy that most people really don't want to see come across their table. And he did fantastic. I mean, again, like you said, a close fight. He didn't get the W, but man, he proved that he belongs there in those positions, fighting for number 1 contendership, fighting for the possibility of fighting for the belt. And I think if you're Belal, you're pretty happy with either one of those guys winning, right? I mean, they spent a lot of time in the clinch. There was a lot of moments of inactivity, whereas a guy like Belal Muhammad, he's going to be relentless in those positions against the fence with the takedown attempts. So I know Shavkat potentially had a pretty bad knee injury that he was dealing with. How badly that affected him, we don't, we can't really know, but he did look a little off to me. But I'm telling you, if I'm the champ, I'm excited for the next matchup with him. I think that a lot of times we see when these guys are so scary and all these finishes, and once somebody shows a little bit of weakness in them, shows that there's the chance to beat them, other guys are very excited at the opportunity. So I'm excited to see that fight happen.
Yeah. I mean, Ian Garry was the guy that stopped himself from getting finished. That's down to Ian Garry. Shavkat didn't look, particularly dangerous or particularly scary. Didn't look like somebody that Bilal's going to think, oh, I can't beat this guy. But it's the previous 18 other fights also that you have to look at. That's the thing when you're the champion, being the best version of yourself and overcoming the adversity every single time. That's the hard part. And when you're undefeated and you've always finished everybody, continuing to do that, again, that's the challenge. He still got the job done when he had a relatively lackluster, shall we say. I think it's fair to say that. We all know it wasn't a barn burner. Callum picked us up from the airport because I had a TNT post show to do yesterday. I had to rush back. Couldn't get an Uber. By the way, he's got shingles. Are you familiar with shingles?
Yeah.
He called me up the other day.
Yeah,
go on.
It's strange because that's something that you usually get later in your life if you've had chickenpox. Did he have chickenpox when he was younger?
I don't think he did. No.
It's crazy because usually I think it's a virus that's similar to chickenpox, but usually it doesn't reemerge and cause issues for people until they're, I don't know, I want to say usually in like their 60s or 70s potentially. That's
23.
nuts.
I know he's 23. We woke up in Vegas and he texts us and
he's miserable.
He's got it bad all over his body. And he said the pain is insane.
Yeah, it's miserable.
So anyway, we were going to get an Uber because of that, because we're only 20 minutes from the airport. I'm like, son, I've got to get back quick. You're going to have to pick me up, shingles or not. Anyway, so he picked me up and we're driving back and we're talking about the fight. And he says, yeah, but Dad, Shavkat's always boring. I went, what do you mean? He's finished every single opponent. He said, yeah. I'm bringing this up for a conversation. He said, yeah, and that's why people forget that. He said, most of the time, he's not like the craziest fighter. He's very methodical and he takes his time, but he always gets the finish. So people overlook the rest of the fight. And I was like, well, that's actually an interesting take. I don't know if it's true, but it's an interesting take. Paul, Harrington as well. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I can see what he's saying. Yeah, where he doesn't go out and fight reckless. He doesn't go crazy for the finish. He's not necessarily always in these crazy barn burner type fights. Him putting people up against the fence, using that clinch and trying to find moments there and get around to the back, look for a submission. And he was throwing the things that sometimes will get him a big moment, like a spinning heel kick. And he did land some good punches, but credit to Garry. I mean, Ian Garry took those shots and was able to stay in there. And usually guys don't. But your son's got a good point there. Yeah. Up until those big moments, sometimes it's methodical. He takes his time. He really picks his shots. He doesn't overextend himself too much. I think he was in a little crazier fight when he fought Jeff Neal. I think that was
Jeff Neal.
more wild. But
that was a good one. The reason I was grinning to myself, and Harrington, give me your take. The reason I was grinning to myself there is I've just realized a hack on how I can say a controversial opinion and say it was someone else's.
Blame your son.
I said, so I was talking to Callum, and Callum says this. What do you think? So if I start dropping Callum a lot, then it's bullshit.
Yeah, we're gonna call him Cali Hot Takes.
Callum Hot Takes. Oh, Hot Takes with Callum might be a good 5-minute segment.
I don't hate it.
Now I got to edit this out. You can't be giving away the sauce, Mike.
What did you think about that, Harrington?
Like, I was going to agree, honestly. I was talking to you off air. Like, I thought Ian Garry had a very good chance in this fight because I thought Ian Garry could just Ian Garry the crap out of this fight. Like, I don't think Shavkat's not Hamzat. You know what I mean? He's not coming out and hitting blast double legs and picking guys up and expending every single bit of energy he has to get that finish in the first round. Shavkat is methodical and he'll just pick you apart till he finds that opening, and he's just been good enough to always find it. And I thought against Ian Garry, he was going to prove too sound, present too few openings to stymie a lot of what Shavkat does, like Paul was saying, the spinning stuff to try to create those openings. And I mean, I think the fight played out largely like I thought it was going to. I think they were both way too hesitant in those first two rounds. I mean, what do we have? Like one shot decided both of those rounds? That's crazy to me.
Yeah, no, it was low in that regard. Shavkat got the job done. The next man he faces will be Belal Muhammad, who again was right there, and they called him into the ring, and I was like, go on, Belal, and everyone was like, go on. So he jumps over, and then security weren't going to let him in initially, and Joe Rogan was like, security doesn't know who he is, and then McGregor came out, and he had a funny response. It's like security doesn't even know who the F that guy is, which, come on, it's a good throwback line. It's pretty funny, It's not funny for Belal.
No.
How do you see that fight, though? I think Belal does very well.
If the same Shavkat, if the fight is anywhere near what it was in the Ian Garry fight, I see Belal winning that fight. I really do. I think he's got just insane pace that he puts on guys. He doesn't get the clinch and just hold you there. He might hold you there along the fence, but he's constantly looking for another takedown. And he's got an awkward style of striking. Ian Garry's very polished, super sharp from the outside, but Belal wants to get in and he throws weird kicks and he throws weird punches. He switches stances. He mixes in his takedowns. Now listen, Shavkat's incredible. He's undefeated still, just because he's coming off of a close decision and in a fight that wasn't necessarily all that crazy. Doesn't mean that he's not going to show up healthier and even better for that title fight. But I like Bilal Muhammad's chances a lot in that fight.
Herringbone has got a hot take now. Go.
Well, I was going to ask you both. You kind of touched on it there, Paul. The health factor. Daniel Cormier came out after the fight and said that Shavkat took that fight with a partially torn MCL. Do you think that has anything to do with the performance that we saw, and would that make things different for the Bilal fight?
I don't think so.
No?
Yeah, I think it might have hindered his ability to throw crazy kicks and stuff, but he threw them anyway, and he got the fight where he wants fights often to happen, which is along the fence and in that clinch, dirty boxing, looking for takedowns occasionally. So
I don't think so, because if you're well enough to step into the octagon, which is the gauge, a lot of the time, once the adrenaline kicks in of the fight, you'll forget about that injury. And we saw him going for takedowns, and we saw him do spinning wheel kicks, and we saw him get in the clinch, as you said. So I don't think that did hinder him at all. Next for Ian Garry, I think Bilal does very well. But saying that, as I said earlier, even on what we might call a bad night, he still managed to beat an undefeated Ian Garry. Can't forget that. Ian Garry's really good. 15-0 for a goddamn reason, and even on quote unquote a bad night and not an entertaining night with an injury like the partially strained MCL or torn, whatever it was, he still got the victory. And that's all that matters when it's all said and done. All right, this episode is sponsored by Prizepicks, and Prizepicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prizepicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prizepicks. As I say, whatever the sport, whatever it is that you're watching, Prizepicks probably offer some games on that. Now, all you do, you pick more or less on certain stats. For example, this week I am looking at the football board and I am selecting Jared Goff for more, not less than 230 passing yards, and Saquon Barkley for more than 1 touchdown. As I said, with Prizepicks, all you got to do is say more or less. Also, Travis Kelce for more than 70 receiving yards, and Lamar Jackson for more than 250 passing yards. It's that easy. So download the Prizepicks app today. Use the code BELIEVE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. As I say, download the Prizepicks app today. Use the code BELIEVE. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game. Ian Garry, we're going to be going to London in March, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Leon Edwards is the main event.
He does not have an opponent.
He doesn't have an opponent. Ian Garry, Leon Edwards,
That's a fun fight,
Ireland, a striker's delight, going down over 5 rounds at the O2 Arena.
I'm there for it.
That makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. And we were talking about last week, coming into this fight, what potentially could be Leon's opponent. And I think we mentioned that maybe if somebody comes out of this fight and they're okay and, they had a decent performance and are not too banged up, that it could make sense. And we talked Sean Brady before, and how, a guy like Leon coming off the loss that he's coming off to Bilal, he's not going to want that fight. But an Ian Garry fight, somebody that's willing to stand and trade with him. I'll tell you what, though. I agree that the fans are going to get into it, but that is a fight that also could be a snoozer, to be completely honest.
Whoa.
I'm telling you.
Counter-Striker versus Counter-Striker?
Exactly. You know what I'm talking about. Now, if these guys actually stood and traded.
I ain't shitting on Leon, bro.
Yeah, I'm not. And I'm not. They're both incredible athletes, but it's a matchup that could be a whole lot of waiting. It could be a whole lot of waiting. But I do think it makes sense. And I think in that market, you're gonna fill that place up. So, you're going to fill that place up no matter what. The fights are in London. People are going. They probably don't even need to know who the main event is. But you throw Leon and then you throw, Ian Machado Garry on there. Let's go.
We're going to go through the rest of the fights in just a moment, but there was a big news story last week. Now, I live in the US, and I love living here, okay? I have a great life, and anytime I give an opinion, people don't like it. You know, like, we'll go back to England. So, no, I don't want to. I live a very good life here. Thank you very much. But the healthcare system is kind of screwed up, right? It's very, very good. It's a great system, but it's ridiculously expensive. I pay over $4,000 a month for my health insurance. And still a lot of the time when I need stuff done, like my last neck surgery, initially denied. Okay. So there's a lot of frustration. A lot of people have to start GoFundMes to pay for cancer treatments. People have to sell their houses. People go bankrupt when somebody gets sick, right? Yeah. That's the part that frustrates me, because the largest economy on planet Earth, it doesn't need to be that way. This is a segue, if you hadn't noticed, into Harrington. I'll let you give us the meats and potatoes of it. But they caught the guy, by the way, but don't bury the lead.
Yeah, breaking news update. Like you said, on Wednesday, there was a brazen broad daylight shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside of a hotel where he was going in for an investors meeting early in the morning. The shooter then apparently hopped on a bicycle, went into Central Park, disappeared, left his backpack behind, which was found to have Monopoly money in it. And then, he was just gone. There was no trace of him all weekend. Today, though, it appears there was a guy who was riding on a Greyhound through Pennsylvania. They stopped at they stopped at some roadside place. He went into the McDonald's. One of the McDonald's employees recognized him, called the police, and he has since been taken in for questioning.
So first of all, though, because I saw initially on TV that people were they had the hypothesis that this was a professional hitman. And he went into a Starbucks. He was caught on camera there. They had pictures of his face, because initially he had a mask on. Then he had pictures of his face without a mask. They got copies of his saliva. He threw a coffee cup. He was just making dumb mistakes all over the place. And I was watching this and I was like, there's no way this is a professional hitman. Not that I have ever been or I've ever run into a professional hitman, but there's too many mistakes being made. And then on the bullets, they had deny, depose.
Yeah.
What was the third one, Brian?
Delay.
Deny. They denied the claim. Delayed the claim. They need to depose them for being crooks. I don't know, something like that. This was clearly a personal attack, if you ask me.
Yeah, it was on the bullets, right? Wasn't it on the bullets? That's insane.
I have seen some chatter on the tinfoil side of the internet about how
I've seen different faces. The clothes don't all match, and
that's
like that.
That's just bad camera resolution. If you look at like the actual pictures, like that, it's legit. The jacket and the hoodie are the same, but the thing I'm talking about is like he has like college connections and like work history connections that point to him being a glow boy of some sort, like a CIA asset. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. I was just reading earlier that I know he went to an Ivy school and he has some kind of hatred for corporate America. And it's crazy because when you look at the comment section, we got to remember, right? So what I said
I read some comments myself. My wife was like, "Hey, read the comments."
It's insane. And the reason what I'm going to say is insane. I said what I said about the state of healthcare here, which is a great product, but a lot of people don't have access to it all. And sometimes people go into financial ruin because of the way that it's structured. However, businesses, and I don't agree with it, and I'm the biggest cheerleader for it. And I'll just give you an example for anyone that's in the UK or outside of America, or even for people in the US that don't understand what I'm bitching about. Now and again, I break out in a cold sore. You guys call it herpes, by the way. Why do you do that? I prefer the term cold sore.
Yeah, it's a different. It's not the same as like getting genital herpes or anything like that. But I think that. Yeah, I know. I think that the virus itself is similar to
herpes simplex or whatever, but it's a different strain and it's on your lip instead of on your dick. And I'm like, cold sore. Thank you very much.
Please.
Haven't had one for quite some time. But anyway, if you get one here, you've got to go to the doctor, So then you've got to pay your co-payment of $65. Then you've got to get the prescription. Then you've got to go down there and you pay through your insurance. In the UK, you can just go into a pharmacy, £4, grab some Zavirax because it's so easy to get there. I've got like 20 tubes in my top drawer in my bathroom. Here, you got to go through the insurance. And I got a copy of the paperwork. The insurance company is billing like $950 for the cream that I buy for £4. Right? This is the entire system is corrupt. Okay.
Well, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So anyway, with that said, we're still talking about a human being. We're still talking about a husband and a father. We're still talking about someone where we've got the footage where the guy walks up behind him and blows his bloody brains out and kills him. And people are celebrating it all over the place.
Like he's Batman. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, but like he's Satan, like he's like he's like, ooh, you know. And it's just an interesting observation into modern society that somebody dies like that and people are kind of interested.
It shows the frustration. Shows the frustration level. You read the comment section of that, and it just shows where the American people in particular are at with these mega companies and these people that are running these, healthcare businesses and just kind of everybody over. And this guy's just a CEO and again, has its own life and his own, but that's how mad people are and pissed off and frustrated. Sorry.
Yeah,
Brian,
he's making no. Brian, jump on, make your point, please. But yeah, he makes like ridiculous money. He's a very, very wealthy guy, and I'm sure he's worked hard to get to that position. And he's not solely responsible for this system that we have. However, he is at the helm of a company that's probably denied many people for life-saving treatment. Anyway, Brian.
Yeah, you guys pretty much covered it. It's he's a CEO of a company, but it's a publicly traded company. He's not making all the decisions. There's a board. No. There's all these other things that go on. But I understand why people are upset. But also, you can't go around shooting people because you just you can't go around shooting people. You have to do it in a better way.
Yeah, if we start doing that with anything that we're frustrated over, we're gonna have a lot of issues.
I'm just trying to scroll here to find a few comments because my Instagram feed was full of it. And now, of course, I'm trying to do it live on the air and I can't find a single post. They're like, he's done with this one. We'll send him more life hacks on how to live longer.
2 very boring minutes later.
Flipping on double birds.
All right, here we go. I got it. Officials name suspects in the CEO's killing. Right? I knew it was only a matter of time before the algorithm gave me one. Seems like there's a rat problem at that McDonald's. His first comment. I would like a key takeaway from this. The police did nothing. The man was caught by a McDonald's employee. Raise the damn minimum wage. Free this man. Billionaires are finally scared of the working class.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's where
this guy killed a serial killer. He should get a medal. This is what I mean. It's just like, the healthcare business is, in my opinion, very, very crooked and corrupt. But he's also probably not calling the shots. He wasn't solely responsible. It's a publicly traded company. There's shareholders, there's a board of directors, and so on and so forth. Ain't no way you have the dude was a methodical and he's in McDonald's with a gun and a note. Of the two, so there's that as well. But Brad Hamilton, go on.
So I'm seeing on the TMZ post about it, Luigi getting blamed for Mario's crimes once again. Bro had an entire week to get out of the country, and he get caught at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania.
See, that's kind of crazy, though. You would think if he's a deranged psychopath, he won't be thinking clearly. If it was a professional hitman, I said they'll never catch this guy. Blow the brains out, get out of the country. Done.
I really like this comment.
Go on, Harrington.
I demand this level of dedication to finding all murderers, not just the ones who killed billionaire CEOs.
See, that's a tremendous comment. And that is kind of the difference. Now, granted, this was big news. He was a kind of high-profile person. They did have the footage of him being shot. So it creates a big news story, but you're absolutely right. People get murdered every single day and, not much is done about it. What was I going to say? I was going to say a really good last point there. I was going to say a good point. It's gone. Harrington jumped in and took it from me. There's no CTE over here. Tell you that. Oh, well. Well, there you go. I thought we'd bring that up as it's a healthy discussion point, if nothing else.
It was crazy. It was crazy with the comments, though, for sure.
Is there anybody in your life that you don't have to say a name, but when you think about right now, if you could have them murdered, is there anyone that you would think, yes, I would? Because I got one or two. Well, I snap fingers and they get the brains blown out. I'm snapping those fingers.
Right now, there's just, it's not somebody I want dead, but
tortured.
There's some issues with my daughter and some girls at school right now. And all I kept saying to Christine today was, the fighter comes out of me in moments like that. Obviously, I can't do anything to little girls that are messing with my daughter in school and saying stupid things. But I immediately said to Christine, I was like, well, you better talk to the teacher, get that solved. I was like, because I don't want to have to break her dad's jaw. It is like right where my mind went. So that's where I was at today. Because I don't, that poor guy may have done nothing, might be the nicest guy in the world. But if he's anything like his kids that are talking to my daughter, then he deserves a punch in the teeth. And they're messing with the wrong kid, because
it's a classic, isn't it? It's a classic. I always say that.
I just want to break this guy's jaw. I don't want him dead.
Remember when Callum was 3 or 4, that was 20 years ago for me. You know what I mean? So I was the same way. I was like, you better get your shit together because I ain't gonna take it out on the kid. But I'm you.
But I'll beat your ass. I'm
going to bully you. I'm gonna make you feel the same way.
And I've seen this clown when Ashling was doing track last year, or maybe 2 years ago. I saw this dad walking the track with, he had the Bluetooth earpiece in, and he's just, of course, overweight, piece of shit, out of shape, walking around with this Bluetooth thing. It's like, oh man, I can feel I don't know. Is it the right hand? Is it the left hook? Is it an elbow, Michael? I don't know, but I've been daydreaming about it.
Brian and Harrington jump on signs of douchebaggery 101. Okay. Bluetooth headphones on as you're walking down the street. What else we got? A man purse?
Oh, dude, yeah. The little fanny packs.
The big one. The
big one. I saw Jake Paul today on Instagram arriving at Mike Tyson's after party with a massive one strapped across to him. I'm like, you dress like a 12-year-old.
I was just reminded of one as Harrington Kit comes on the screen.
Go on, Harrington. Cap backwards.
Backwards hat. Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Paul likes a backwards hat, though. A lot of people do. We can't. Yeah.
Hey, I walk around with my hair tied up. That people be like, "Oh, man bun."
The man bun. Oh, that's a classic. It is.
Man bun.
The man bun. Anything to add, Harrington?
Oh, anyone wearing Oakleys in 2024?
I got a buddy who wears Oakleys.
Hold up.
He's only my buddy.
Really?
Because,
unless I'm performing athletics.
All right, fair.
Then I will wear them. But yes, I do not walk around just
purpose
with a
made.
pair of, especially the old school looking ones. I've got ones that are like this big.
That's another one. If you wear Carhartts and you've never worked a day in your life, die in a fire.
This is a modern one. Driving a Tesla.
Ooh, okay.
All right, Bryce.
Yeah, I know. Or according to Bryce Mitchell, wearing a seatbelt.
Yeah.
Hey, there's some merits to that argument. I'm just saying.
Got to be able to escape.
No, you can't. Right? I'm sorry.
Got to tuck and roll.
Listen, if you go off the side of a road and you're rolling down a hill, number one, just due to physics alone, you're going to go all over. You don't have free will and control over your body. Wind the window down and then time it perfect where the exit is not the ground and propel yourself out of there.
Hey, Michael, through Christ, all things are possible.
That's true.
That is correct. But what if you wear your seatbelt, ladies and gentlemen? Bryce, I love you, buddy.
What if you approach the edge of the flatness and you're about to go over? And you're strapped into one of Elon Musk's demon machines, and he decides to just keep your seatbelt buckled. You're trying to unbuckle it. Got to go no buckle.
There is the argument for social Darwinism, where it's like, hey, there is the argument for social Darwinism where it's just like, hey, if you don't want to wear a seatbelt, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, of course.
You'll get squared away.
Yeah.
My dad never, ever wore a seatbelt. And one of my good mates, Blanky, back home, he never wears a seatbelt. And he's a mechanic. So he has, because nowadays cars, they alarm when you don't wear the seatbelt. He has a thing that plugs in like a fake seatbelt, and he gets in the car and just plugs that in so he doesn't have to. He's like, yeah, I don't like seatbelts. I'm like, bro,
The amount of time you go through to not hear that sound, other than just going.
I heard in Italy they make shirts where it looks like you have the seatbelt on, so you get when you're driving around, you don't get pulled over for a seatbelt ticket.
We gotta send one of those to Bryce Mitchell as a congratulations gift.
When I used to go on a night out and I was like maybe driving to Liverpool or Manchester or whatever, and I just ironed a fresh shirt, I didn't like to put my seatbelt on because it would iron my shirt. You know what I mean? I'm like, I ain't going out wearing a seatbelt for an hour, and then when I get there, I'm looking like homeless. You know what I mean? So
that's why you got to drive in your undershirt. You just hang your shirt in the back seat. Yeah. You hang it off. They got those little hooks. You fucking
Fashion tips with Brian. New segment coming in hot. And that leads us nicely into Bryce Mitchell knocking out Kron Gracie in the third round, I think it was, after Kron Gracie just pulling guard for the entirety of the fight. What was your opinion on that?
Oh, well, I mean, I was getting real pissed off. We're at a point in MMA where you don't need to do that. That's not how you win fights. You're just, even if you don't get finished, you're not winning. Like, Bryce is a very smart grappler. And yeah, you almost got him with an armbar, but you've got to have other tools to find ways to win in mixed martial arts nowadays. You can't just pull guard like that. And I lost my shit when Bryce finally was just like, okay, slammed him down, big elbow. Because honestly, I wanted to hear that post-fight speech. To be completely honest with you, nothing against Kron Gracie, although I don't want to see that shit in the UFC. You know what I mean? If you're a good jiu-jitsu guy, then work takedowns. Find a way to get into a good dominant position and implement your dominance in grappling by being a good grappler and not just a guard puller. There's no room for that. And Bryce Mitchell, I think, probably made sure that we won't see that again in the UFC.
Well, that's 3 losses in a row now for Kron Gracie. I don't think we will see it. I don't think Dana was particularly impressed. I don't think there's a lot of I don't want to shit on the guy too much, but I didn't like it either. And I found it, am I weird to find it a little bit borderline disrespectful? Because I kind of do. And like, Ryan Hall, he's a guy that's a great guy, an incredible jiu-jitsu, but to just be so truly one-dimensional and to just roll Liminari rolls or to just pull guard repeatedly, time after time after time, it kind of annoys me a bit. And am I wrong to feel that way?
Well, I know, because listen, there are jiu-jitsu high-level tournaments nowadays where people want to go and see that. They want to see you start in a close position and they want to see you grapple. Yeah, they want to see you go for leg locks. They want to see you go and do crazy scrambles and rolls. And there is also a home for that in the UFC, but it's mixed martial arts. We are not a grappling tournament. We are not a professional grappling league. You are there to fight. You start on the feet for a reason, because part of the sport is you engaging in striking. You should also know how to strike. I have nothing against you clinching a guy, pushing him against the fence, trying to dirty box, look for takedowns. If you're a good wrestler, I have no problem with you taking the fight to the ground the entire time. But you've got to learn ground and pound. You've got to learn to strike. You've got to learn to kickbox, because that's the sport you're in. To me, it's almost the equivalent of us going to a grappling tournament. Like, what? I elbowed him in the face. I TK'd him. Why? We're fighting. It's like, no, you're fighting jiu-jitsu. Just like in MMA, you've got to learn to do all aspects of it if you expect to be taken seriously. Not that you can't pull off a win, not that you can't find some spectacular submission, but come on, that's not what people are paying to see. That's not what people are paying to see. They can go and see Fight Pass invitationals and, all the high level jiu-jitsu tournaments that go over in Abu Dhabi and all that kind of stuff. This is not that.
And it's also not 1993. This is not Horace Gracie going in there with some kind of secret weapon. At this point now, all the moves are on YouTube. All the fights are on TV. You can study your opponent. You can learn the defenses. You know, Royce Gracie had a secret weapon back in the day. He unveiled Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to the world, and it became a martial arts staple, a global phenomenon. The Gracie name is a huge multi-million-dollar corporation, but this isn't 1993. It's 2024, and the well-trained, well-rounded athletes are going out there and destroying people like that. You can't come in. It's I was going to say it's an embarrassment. I shouldn't. That's probably too strong a word, but it kind of is.
To your point, Cesar Gracie put out a tweet directly after the fight.
Good idea to pull guard in MMA like that. And he's absolutely right. The top position guy. And I was using you, Paul, as an example the other day. I was talking, it was in the crowd. I think it was to Juliana Pena, it might have been, or somebody. And I was like, well, Paul Felder, Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira's got the most submission victories in the UFC. The most bonuses, a former champion, is highly, highly decorated. But if you do the homework and you know how to close down the guard and do what you did to Charles Oliveira, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah, you're gonna eat elbows, and ultimately that's what happened. I mean, he went out bad because he pulled guard for one last time and it didn't work. At that point in the fight, he should have just go for it on the feet a little bit, or shoot a double leg. Try to take him down a little bit more sensibly. Don't just pull guard like that. Yeah. And you know, about the Gracies and back in the 90s, like also back then, they were, like you said, they were trying to prove a point that their style, that's when it was style versus style. There's guys in karate gis. There's guy wearing one boxing glove. There's sumo wrestlers. Yeah. It was, that's when that was cool, right? We're trying to see what's the best martial arts. So they were there to prove, starting the UFC, saying, we are the best way to win a fight. And now, because of them and because of their style and of jiu-jitsu, now you see so much crazy stuff on the ground. So it's almost like disrespecting
martial arts didn't exist. If anything, it was no holds barred. Vale Tudo is what it was also referred to. Human cockfighting, if you want to really go down, you know? Yeah, those terms didn't exist. MMA as a sport was not even founded then. But that's what he's doing. He's using this style that is so one-dimensional. Bryce was great. Yes, of course, he came close to an armbar in round 2. But then again, when Bryce passed guard, almost finished him there. It looked like he didn't even really want to be there. And that might be a little bit too harsh. But I didn't see the fire. Like, because Bryce joined us last week, of course. And he was like, listen, Kron's dangerous. And he's right. When he fought Cub Swanson, he was swinging for the fences. There was none of that this time. It was purely reliant on the guard. And then the stoppage from Bryce, beautiful. First return after getting knocked out against Josh Emmett to get the first knockout in his own career. Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful. Here it is. Lands a knee. Too. Goes for guard again.
Fuck
boom. Yeah. Who's that? Who else did that in the UFC? Exactly like that.
Oh, we were just talking about that. While we were talking about I'm going to forget his name. Jordan Levitt did it. Do you remember?
Against the ghost of Eddie Wineland.
Yeah. No. Eddie Wineland? No, Matt Wineman.
Oh, there was a wine in there. There was a wine. there was something. Wineman. I apologize.
Yeah. Did you call that? Were we on that together? Did we call that one?
I was not. Or was I?
I think I called that one.
Yeah. There's so many.
They all blur together at this point.
They do. It's hard.
The best is when we're doing research and I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
I know.
I don't know this guy. It's my voice on his fight.
I haven't seen this fight. I haven't seen this guy. And then I watch the tape and I'm calling the fight. Oh, yeah. I get excited because I put all my notes into my phone and I'm like, I
do know this guy.
I've got notes. Yeah, well done, Bryce Mitchell. Good for him.
Doohoo Choi called him out on Instagram.
Who, Bryce?
And he put up just a picture of the earth and he was like, April or May.
That's good. Great. That's good. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. We did skip the heavyweight fight. I thought Alexander Volkov won. Let's start with that.
Yeah, I think I did. I mean, when the horn sounded before, And again, stats pop up and, numbers. That doesn't tell the story of the fight, because when the fight was over, I thought the same thing. I thought he did enough in that match to win. And I think the attitude of Cyril Gane also confirms what most people were thinking, that Volkov won that fight the way he wanted to just leave. He wanted to be out of there. He didn't think he won. And it just sucks, because even Dana said to him, it's like, I can't change the commission's ruling on that. You know what I mean? I can only try to do right by you from here moving on and try to get you a good matchup or get you paid or something like that. But it's still a loss on his record. It still halts his momentum technically. So I hate seeing that. But I mean, it was a competitive fight. I thought Volkov won too.
It was an enjoyable fight, and fair play to both men. And I got to say, I respect Cyril Gane, because it did seem like he felt like he knew in his heart that he hadn't won. So he was like, all right, I'm done. I'll walk out. Just like Forrest Griffin versus Tito Ortiz back in the day. Forrest Griffin did the same thing. But
he didn't come back though, did he? He straight up left, didn't he?
No, Forrest came back.
Oh, did he come back?
They sent security for him. But here's the real confusion, because I have the whole video of Dana talking to Volkov after the fight. Yeah, sure, play it.
Tell him he got. I don't know what we'll do, but we'll try to make it right. I have no idea. The whole arena thought.
Yeah, and he's right there. The whole arena did think that, because the boos in the building were crazy. I was going to say, so I did a review show when I got in. So we had the fights. I went to that steakhouse nightclub bloody thing, went to bed, got up, flew on a plane, and then immediately walked through the door and did a review show. So I hadn't looked online. I certainly hadn't seen the judges' scorecards. So when I was doing the review show, I assumed that the rounding contention was round 3, because round 1, in my opinion, Cyril Gane won it across the board. He got the takedowns. He had some control, went for the submission when he was on top, which was a mistake. Round 2, Volkov hit him with head kicks, did the spinning back fist, kind of chased him down a little bit. I thought that was clear as day. And then I just assumed incorrectly that the rounding contention would have been the 3rd round, because Volkov was on top and Cyril Gane was going for a Kimura. And then maybe the judge looked at him threatening a submission as a fight-ending scenario, so they gave it to Cyril Gane. And I said this on the show, and then live on the thing, they're like, no, Michael, no. It was round 2. They gave Cyril Gane round 2. I don't understand that reasoning whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought it was going to come down to round 3, because even when we were sitting here with my buddies, we had it 1-1 going into the 3rd round, and it was a fun fight. So I was excited for the 3rd round, because this is it. And I think both those guys felt that, knowing that they had to go out there and win the 3rd round. And it was close, because there was a submission attempt, but Volkov managed to get a lot of top control and a lot of control time at the end there. So I didn't really know how the judges are going to go. I was leaning Volkov, but it didn't even matter. It didn't even really matter. It mattered for that 2nd round, which I agree that I had it 1-1.
It was a great fight, though. It was an enjoyable fight. It was a good
heavyweight fight, man, where we got to see everything. We saw wrestling. We saw good kicks, some spinning stuff, submission attempts. You don't often get to see all of that on display in that heavyweight division. So I thought good on both those guys, to be fair, for really being just well-rounded, athletic heavyweights. And we're seeing more and more in that again. Obviously John Jones at top, Tom Aspinall looking to get his shot at that belt, and Volkov looking stronger than ever too. Looking stronger than ever. I know he did a ton of strength and conditioning leading into that fight, and it showed.
I liked it because from Cyril Gane, we saw evolution from him. He was standing up well. He was using the underhook to good advantage. He, hit some nice double legs. Brian, if you can, if it takes too long, don't worry about it. Look up the Schmo's Instagram, because I saw a video today of Chael Sonnen talking to the Schmo. And Chael was going on about how never in the history of the heavyweight division has there ever been people that can't wrestle. Has there ever been a time where there hasn't been representatives from the NCAAs? Oh, well done, Bri. Here we go.
Never in UFC history, and I mean never. You can start with Dan Severn, who handed it to Mark Coleman, who handed it to Randy Couture, who slipped a Kevin Randleman in there, who handed it to Daniel Cormier. We have never had wrestling more underrepresented. We not only don't have an NCAA wrestler in the top 10. I'm not talking about an All-American. I'm not talking about an Olympian. We don't have a single NCAA wrestler under contract in the heavyweight division. It has never happened before. The highest achieving wrestler the heavyweight division has is John Jones, who won the Junior College National Championship, which is a very good honor. Wrestling still dominates. And by the way, the second highest ranking wrestler that we had was Stipe Miocic, who was a participant at the NCAA tournament at 197. That was your world title fight. And before that, it was our Olympian Daniel Cormier. Wrestling still rules the day, and they don't have a single one under contract. So to recognize any of those guys, like, hey, way to go, you did something good. Well, you did something good at a pretty easy time. We have
Oh, I mean, does he have a point? Because he's kind of. I'm not talking bad about John or my mate Tom. I would never do that, but he does bring up an interesting point.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that until because I'm not a wrestler, so I don't notice that there's no. I enjoy when there's no double NCAA wrestling people in the divisions, because especially if they were in my division, but unfortunately lightweight always had plenty of wrestling monsters. But yeah, I didn't even think about that there really isn't anybody that's a standout. What was even Curtis Blades? I know he's one of our big wrestlers in the division. What was his stats on
I don't know. You would have to ask somebody like a Chael Sonnen, because
I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't follow amateur wrestling on the NCAA level. Okay. Yeah. I don't want to hear about wrestling even when I'm getting ready for a fight. Okay.
Unlike you're not like Cormier, who's watching it 24 hours a day when you're on the road with him. Sometimes the guy ingests more wrestling than anybody I can think of. Other than maybe Chael.
He's there sometimes before a fight night's about to start, and he's watching the NCAA on his phone, or at a beautiful steakhouse where there might be a nightclub going on in the background. He's watching wrestling on the phone.
I looked up Curtis Blades. He went undefeated his senior year in high school, 44-0. He went to NIU and became the school leader. Only DeSalle wrestler has finished undefeated and also having the most takedowns in school history.
Okay. Is that a good school though? NIU? Is it NCAA?
It's NCAA, but it's not particularly it's not a wrestling powerhouse.
So are you saying that Chael's full of shit and he's giving out misinformation to the schmo?
Well, I mean, that could be about literally any topic, but in this particular instance, I don't think so.
Chael would never just says things sometimes that aren't incorrect.
No, he fact checks everything. He fact checks everything for sure.
With an AI database. All right, Harrington, what should we talk about here? We've been going for an hour, 20 minutes there, Paul. So maybe there's a couple of news topics that we got to get to. Of course, Doo Ho Choi looks incredible.
Oh my God!
Jump now and get to some of the talking points maybe came out of the weekend. Doo Ho Choi looks incredible. He was too fast, too quick, too slick, too good, too skilled. The foot sweeps, the finish, the crucifix. I mean, he looked amazing.
Yeah, he's on another level. That time, he took some time to get better, man. And he looked big. He looked strong. He was wrestling well. His jiu-jitsu was on point, and he didn't have to do any of that. If he wanted to just stand and trade, he could have done that. But he was smart. He knew that Nate Landwehr's only chance in that fight, especially as it kept going, was to give him a lucky shot, because Nate's as tough as they come. He's not going to go anywhere. He's going to try to fight. But the pace that he was putting on Nate Landwehr even wore out him, and he's known for just having an endless tank. And you saw him between rounds. He was just hurting from the control that Doo Ho Choi was putting on him.
No, it was a great night. It was a great night of fights as well. And congrats to all the people that competed, and of course to all the winners. Harrington, I was just going to ask you for an MMA news story there.
Okay.
But the best one involves, it's like I ain't trying to start beef. Because Jamal Hill's not someone you want to have beef with, because he's gonna come for you. He was a few seats down from me on Saturday night. I half expected a Bisping, what the fuck, because he's even doing it to Alex Pereira. Play that video, please, Brian, and Harrington, give a bit of breakdown, please.
Okay, well, Jamahal Hill showed up to the UFC PI. He started talking a bit back and forth through Pereira's translator. Apparently, the exchange went something along the lines of, Jamahal Hill coming up talking, and his translator came back to him and said, "Oh, Alex thinks you must still be asleep from UFC 300 to be coming in here like this." He started jawing some more back to the translator. Pereira didn't want to hear it, threw down some gloves and said, let's go handle this in the cage. Jamahal Hill informed Pereira that they get paid to fight, and since no one is paying them, he would not accept the invitation.
We spoke about this. There's Pereira throwing down the gloves. Jamal's walking down very casually with a rash guard on, a long sleeve rash guard, which I'm never a fan of that look.
No, never wore a long sleeve rash guard.
Never, guys, if you're in this world, never wear a long sleeve rash guard. And he's got a little towel around the waist, and there's Pereira standing his ground. He's just holding onto the towel. They showed Jamahal on the screen on Saturday night, and whilst he showed me, and I didn't get much of a pop, they showed Jamahal, and the boos, man, the boos were coming in strong.
Yeah, he's got to just go full heel at this point. You know what I mean? I think that's the move, and he's almost just leaning into it. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they say no press is bad press, right? It's all good. So people know who he is. That's for damn sure. But again, he's got to fight. He's got a fight coming up. I think I know nothing. It didn't pop off too crazy, but again, he's got to just try his best to forget about that situation until he's in front of it again, because all of this stuff is not going to get him that fight unless he goes and beats Yuri Prochazka. That needs to be his sole focus right now.
He does have to go full heel, though. That's what I did back in the day. I was universally hated. I was like, all right, you want to hate me? Hate this. I'll give you something to hate on. And then in the end, won a few people over. Still a lot of dickheads online.
Always.
But that fight, Harrington, that's 311, right? You said there's 3 fights announced on 311, but you never mentioned that one. You put the top 3 fights. Islam versus Arman Sarukian, Islam versus Arman Sarukian, Nurmagomedov versus Merab, and Renato Moicano versus Beneil Dariush.
Yeah, those were all. Yeah, those were all announced this weekend. We had spoken previously about Yuri versus Jamahal on this card.
Got it. That's shaping up to be a bloody good fight card.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
No. I'm going to ask for you back on. Maybe Paul. Or maybe Harrington knows. What is the origin of this beef with Merab and Umar? I know they're both in the same weight class, and I know they're going to fight, and they're both competitors. But Umar claims that he never spoke anything bad. Merab claims that he did. I saw some tweets the other day, but I wasn't sure who was right or wrong. Do you know anything? Does Harrington know anything? Brian know anything?
As far as I know, he's just mad at him for saying that, like, he's ducking him, or, he doesn't want to fight him and he's trying to avoid him and things like that. I think that's what Umar was pissed about. And then it's become its own thing at this point. I don't know where this deep seated beef between these two comes from, but yeah. I
love this new Merab though. This new Merab going off on everybody.
And that's not the first time he's fought somebody in the crowd either. Didn't he? No. Didn't he get into it? Went up into the stands at one point and confronted somebody.
What I'm saying is, I'm not condoning that behavior as a representative of the UFC, but as a man that's going to watch someone fight, I kind of like seeing that. It kind of fires you up for it. I saw, what's he called, the jiu-jitsu guy? The master jiu-jitsu guy who speaks so well. He's always in the rash guard.
John Danaher.
John Danaher. Yeah. He's such a smart guy. He really is. Yeah. I saw a video the other day on Instagram, and it's so true. He said 99.9% of people watching a fight, a UFC pay-per-view, have no idea what they are watching. They don't understand the skill. They cannot appreciate it for 1 second. And he went on very, very eloquently talking about that. He said, so how do you get people to care? how do you get them to be emotional and to like you and to dislike you? And he said, well, you cause a bit of drama and you cause a bit of tension and beef. And then when the person that doesn't know anything about the fight game, doesn't know your omoplatas from your triangles and stuff like that, knows who's winning from the outside, but doesn't know the finer details, they pick a side. And when there's emotion and there's drama, that's what gets them hooked. That's what gets them to part ways with the money to buy the pay-per-view, give up their Saturday nights and be so invested in the sport. And when you see somebody like Merab and Umar doing this stuff, again, it does. That's what it taps into, those emotions.
Yeah, 100%. You got a good point there. I mean, that's why certain fights sell and certain fights don't. It's because of the people and the air around the fight more so than it is the actual skill. Because how many talented, amazing freaking fighters have there been where nobody seems to care? They can't sell a pay-per-view. They can't do this or that. And it has nothing to do with that they're not a good fighter. It has to do with the actual casual person that wants to get invested on a Saturday night to go see a fight. They need more than just, oh, he's really good. Like, oh no, you should see his jiu-jitsu. They're like, I don't even know what that is. So I don't care.
Yeah. But
if you show them a clip of that Merab trying to punch a dude in the crowd, and then somebody else getting into a fight, and you're like, he's fighting this guy. That was part of that guy's team, and suddenly people are interested.
Or you show them a clip of Sean Strickland that was also announced and confirmed, a long time rumored, going down Australia, February 8th, I believe, or February 8th. Show them a picture or a video of Sean Strickland saying the wild stuff that he says. That's going to evoke an emotional response one way or the other. And it will. This is the 2024 dictionary word of the year. Do you know what it is?
No.
Brian O'Harrington, do you know? And don't Google it. Do you know what the 2024 somebody's dictionary word of the year is? And I thought this was a terrible word.
Is it like Riz or some dumb shit like that?
No. Polarization.
Ugh.
That's the 2024 word of the year. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Sean Strickland's got that nailed. He's way ahead of the curve on the polarization.
Yeah.
He didn't want to go down to Australia and fight Dricus down there. Are you calling that one, Paul?
No, I don't think so. Are you?
I am. I'll be there.
Yeah, it's probably you, DC and Anik, I'm sure.
It's pay-per-view. Yeah, DC and Anik will always be there. Any thoughts on that matchup early?
No, I mean, I like it. We knew it was going to go potentially to him. Did Hamzat do enough to jump in? But I don't mind that at all, seeing those two fight again. It was super fun first time, close fight. I don't blame Sean for not necessarily wanting to go down to Australia to do it, but maybe they sweetened the pot for him, and that's why he's willing to do it.
Brian, just see if you can find a tweet from Sean Strickland. I think Hamzat posted something like offensive towards Sean. It was a picture of him holding.
He was holding a golden AK-47 saying, "Where you at?" and then tagged the wrong Sean Strickland.
Yeah. But then he posted a picture of him and Sean Strickland. And then Sean Strickland came back with a response on Twitter. I don't know if it's been deleted by now. If you have it, Brian, it was quite the scathing response. And that's so bad. I don't even want to read it out. I don't want to misquote it. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? But I don't want to say what he said.
I'm looking for it right now.
No, you're good, buddy. So you just jump on the screen. It's like, if you can't find it, you can't find it. It doesn't really matter. You know the type of stuff he comes out with, but he's like dropping stuff about Chechens and
I saw it.
All kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? If I ever find myself in Chechnya, I just don't want to repeat that line in case I get murdered. That's all.
So the tweet I have is from Sean Strickland yesterday at 12:50 p.m. He says, "I love how Cumshot will try to talk shit to me, but you're not a man. Character level dog shit. Crypto scams, hoard yourself out to the cadrios for cars, fled to the Middle East when the pimp hand got too strong. Stay in your lane, Swedish man."
Oh, mic drop. I mean, Sean is gone. Scorched earth there.
There's another one here.
What's this one? Zoom her in. Read it out, Bri.
Because I love how the world just overlooks this guy's past, builds a life in Sweden, goes and becomes best friends with an absolute monster who pretty much bought him like a W. Then when the leash got too tight, he fled to the Middle East. You should not be allowed in this country. You sold your soul to a terrorist dictator, and you're not compatible with America. Thank God we don't do drone strikes in that sick part of the sand pit. Sick of the UFC forgetting that it's an American company. Jesus.
Sean Strickland's a good follow on Twitter.
Yeah, he will say things. There's no doubt about that.
Who? Captain never fights in America?
Yeah. It's not for the faint-hearted, though. If you're easily offended, do not give him a follow. Simple as that. All right, we've taken up far too much of your time, Paul Felder. No doubt you've got things to do. What are your plans for the evening?
Go have dinner, walk the dogs, and hang out with the kids.
What kind of dogs?
I have a blue tick coonhound and a pug.
A blue tick coonhound?
Yeah.
You can't.
What the hell is one of them?
He is like black and like speckled white spots and just big floppy ears, probably 100-pound, just lazy ass.
So like medium-sized dog?
He's pretty big. I mean, I would say he's slightly over medium size. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sounds
but
beautiful.
he's lazy and he is food driven beyond belief. If you leave anything where he can get it, and he's tall enough, he can get on the counter and do damage. And he has taken things off of that counter.
Well, our little Harry, if he wasn't already pathetic enough, he tore his ACL last week. He had to take him down the vets.
That happens.
Tore his ACL. They wanted $6,000 to do an operation. Fortunately, the vet was very nice. He was honest. He said, listen, if it was my dog, I'd just leave it. He'll get over it. He'll be fine. He's hobbling around the place. He won't jump on the couch. He won't walk up the stairs. You know, he's already pathetic. Now I've got to carry him everywhere as well. You know, but he's loving the attention. Anyway, sounds like a beautiful dog, but I'm going to get another real dog soon. But we finished the show with a question. So if you have one, send it in to bympod@gmail.com. Brian, what do we have this week?
First question we got here is from a gentleman named...
What's up, BYM Pod? So I realized in order for me to get my question answered, I got to kiss your guys' ass a little bit. So first thing I'm going to say is that the BYM podcast is the best podcast out there. Nothing compares. All right, question number 1. For walkout music, is there a time limit that the song has to be? Because, man, there's some good punk rock songs that'll get you hype, but they're only like a minute and a half long. So, yeah, is there a time limit to how long a song has to be? Second, if a judging goes the wrong way and it's obvious that the other guy won, why doesn't the UFC just assume the rightful person won and disregard that loss and just have them move on? Also, I wanted to let you guys know, if you guys ever need another co-host, my name's Anthony as well. We're both bald. I think I'd fit in pretty well for a replacement of Anthony Smith. Let me know what you guys think. Love you guys' podcast.
Woo. All right. Well, the next time when Paul Felder can't fill in,
you got a guy.
MIA, I'm going to hit up my other Anthony Romero. Walkout music. No, there's no set time limit. What do you use, Paul, or did you mix it up?
I mixed it up. For most of my career, I came out to Dropkick and did Shipping Up to Boston was the song I used most. But then I started mixing songs together based on, current mood. So the one song that was like one of my dad's favorite songs I would mix in and things like that. But I didn't think about that. If a song's too short, though, because too long is not a problem because you have all the time in the world to get out to the octagon. But too short, if it's only a minute, they might tell you, hey, you got to find something different.
Well, Blur Song 2 is the shortest song that Blur have done, and it is quite short. So, but the DJ, I forget the name of the DJ that the UFC used, but he's very, very good. So they obviously, they look at this and they'll remix it and rejig it or whatever. I always use Blur Song 2 for the most part, but I did have some others. I did have Clash, London's Calling. Somebody shot me a DM recently, or maybe it was a comment. Michael, given all of the controversy surrounding P. Diddy, Do you regret walking out at UFC 78 to P. Diddy's Come With Me? It was Puff Daddy did like a remix of Led Zeppelin. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
No.
It's a bloody good song.
it's
And I
great.
remember
It was on the Godzilla track.
and that would come on my iTunes back in the day, on my iPod that don't exist anymore. And it'd come on my iPod and I'd start running a bit more. And I'm like, I'm coming out to this. I'm coming out to this.
It's the riff from Kashmir by Led Zeppelin.
That's the one. That is the one. Kashmir with P. Diddy oiling it up as I go. And they're like, do you regret it? I'm like, no, I don't regret it.
Yeah, come on now.
I probably should.
Couldn't know that then. Yeah, there's the rabbit hole is getting.
I was going to go down a JD one as well, but,
Yeah, saw that.
We'll leave that one there, boys and girls. Thank you all for watching the show. Paul, as always, pleasure, brother. The show would be nothing without you guys. If you haven't done, please hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment. It helps out on the algorithm. We appreciate you. And next week, we will be back. Take care.